Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we'll be looking at potential January incomings. Could United be going for a big name striker this January, or could it be a lesser known one? Let's have a look and find out. Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and it is absolutely freezing. I've only got my hood up to keep me bald bonds warm. We'll get straight into it. Loads of stories to go through this morning. Some of them broke. We were out last night. Broke seems a bit extreme, like we broke this story. It's not that dramatic, but some of them were doing the rounds late last night, some of them early this morning. Obviously, we had Paddock Live last night, but there's a couple of stories that we didn't cover, and I'll get into all those and ones from this morning as well. One or two stories about Andre Onana seems to be a hot topic at the moment for, let's have it right, for a lot of the wrong reasons. But it says here in the evening news, Andre Onana is concerned he could lose his place at Manchester United. As Manchester United number one, if he represents Cameroon at the Africa Cup of Nations. Goes on to talk about, obviously, the problem he had against Galatasaray and being at fault for at least two of the goals, in my opinion. It says AFCON begins on January the 16th, and players are due to report for international duty at the start of the month, with the final to be played on February the 11th, and Onana could miss up to 6 United games. Now, just on the Onana front and whether he's going to go to the AFCON as well. That was in the evening news. There's a story here in the Express, and it says here that Man United woes worsen with Andre Onana at risk of a FIFA ban. And it says Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag could face a lose-lose scenario if he wants to keep Andre Onana during the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. Onana risks punishment if he snubs Cameroon duty in the new year in favour of attempting to correct his erratic start to life at Old Trafford. Goes on to explain that there's a FIFA rule that says, I'm quoting the rule book here, forgive me if I'm putting you to sleep, a player who has been called up by his association for one of its representative teams is, unless otherwise agreed by the relevant association, not entitled to play for the club with which he is registered during the period for which he has been released or should have been released pursuant's not a word I use very often, to the provisions of this annex, plus an additional period of 5 days. So it's basically saying if Onana was like, no, I'm not going, I'm not playing, FIFA could say, well, you're banned from playing for United. I think that sounds a bit extreme, that to me, because if Onana, for example, said, I'm retiring from international football, I'm not going. He's already done it once. If he says, right, I'm retiring from international football, so I'm not going to AFCON. Can FIFA say, well, we're going to ban you then because you're not allowed to retire from international football? He could retire from international football and then 6 months later change his mind again. So I don't know how enforceable or realistic that FIFA rule is. It seems a little bit draconian to try and sanction a player if he's saying, I'm not going to play, I'm not going to go to play for my country or whatever. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Get involved. What do you think? I've always said if Andre Onana wants to go and play for his country, then fair enough. I don't think he should be stopped from doing that. It's only right that a player wants to represent the country. I'd rather he didn't, but I understand it. And I also think if he doesn't want to go, FIFA saying, well, that's it, you're banned, that's just ridiculous. I don't think that's realistic whatsoever, but I might be wrong. Don't forget as well, whilst you are watching, to hit that like button and share and subscribe. And you might ask yourself why I've decided to keep my rucksack on this morning. I've only just noticed that that's how cold I am. So yeah, there you go. Transfer news. We had this last night. It's doing the rounds again this morning. Manchester United have Stuttgart's Serhu Guirassy, forgive me if I'm getting that one wrong, on their January wish list. This is the kid who's been at Stuttgart and has scored 15 Bundesliga goals in 10 appearances, which is ridiculous. That is a phenomenal goal-scoring record. He's 27 years old, so he's a good age, as they say. You might question it, though. Me and Joe were talking about this on Paddock Live last night. Why, at 27, is he at Stuttgart? No disrespect to Stuttgart. Why has he not gone to a big club? Is he just having a purple patch? We looked at his numbers over the last few seasons. They're okay. He's proper hit form. The question is, has he reached another level? Is this him sort of becoming a better player? Some players do blossom a little bit later on in life, don't they? Maybe that's what's happened to him, or maybe he's just in a rich vein of form. We've seen either or, haven't we, with players? We've seen players who just, with Pape Cisse at Newcastle. Do you remember him? Where he just wouldn't stop scoring for about 20 games, and then he stopped almost forever. You have that, or then you have a scenario where someone like Jamie Vardy, who when he reaches his mid to late 20s, becomes one of the best strikers on the planet. So the scouting department will have to do their bit there. He is available, apparently, for £15 million. €17.5 million is his release clause. is it even worth just taking a punt? The only issue I've got with that is if you take a punt on him in January and he ain't up to the job, then you snookered, because you can't just go and get another player then. So let us know in the comments what you think. I'm a little bit on the fence. If I had to push for one way or another, I'd be a bit wary of buying a player who's basically having one really, really good season. But like I say, that might be the answer. Another player who's been linked with this January is Ivan Toney. It's in the Express and it's also in the Mail. I'll go through it in the Mail as well. We spoke about this last night, about this sort of British Brexit type transfer policy that Sir Jim Ratcliffe could be bringing in, where he wants to buy British. This might be a little part of that, although I think that's going to be more this summer. It says in the Mail, says Man United will look to secure the signing of in-demand striker Ivan Toney as part of incoming stakeholder Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid for homegrown talent, but the Red Devils could face heavy competition from Premier League rivals. It also goes on to say here, the Manchester club have also identified a young talent in the form of Palmeiras winger Esteval Willian, and could join the race against City, Chelsea and Bayern Munich to tempt the 16-year-old to Old Trafford. So that's one story where we're going for a young winger that basically everyone wants. Ivan Toney is in demand. Could we go for him in January? Well, according to both the Mail and the Express, who say we could do. It says Man United are reportedly among the clubs lining up to sign Ivan Toney in the new year. Arsenal, Spurs and Chelsea are said to be keen on snapping him up, but according to the Daily Mail, the Red Devils are willing to battle it out with all three for his, it says Siganshaw, it should say signature, so whoever's working on the Express, you might want to do a little bit of editing there just to give you a heads up. I mean, there's a couple of options there, in there. There's the kid, the 27-year-old Garassi. Ivan Toney, I've been a big fan of Ivan Toney. I've been saying this for a little while. I would happily see him come to Old Trafford. I know he's been banned. He's not kicked a ball for a few months, and you will always run that risk. Is he going to be quite the same player? I think he will eventually. It might take him a little while to get going, but he's a proven Premier League goal scorer. He's come up through the sort of divisions, done it at Brentford, I think it was in the Championship, then in the Premier League, banged in a lot of goals last season, can take penalties. If you're going to let him take penalties, that's another story. Also can take free kicks. Very, very tight players, caused problems against United. I would happily see him at Old Trafford, and I think he's one player who's less of a risk, despite that ban, than the kid from Stuttgart. I feel with Ivan Toney, you know what you're getting. The only issue is, can you get him in January? Brentford a few weeks ago were saying they wanted 100 million for him. That ain't happening, right? We're not going to pay 100 million. I don't think they'll get 100 million for him as well. But maybe there's a deal that could be done for around 70 million. Is that too much for Ivan Toney? Get involved in the comments in the chat and let us know what you think, because I think desperately Manchester United need a striker in January. We can look at it and go, well, we've got Anthony Martial. He's all right, but he gets injured a lot. And can you truly rely on him? Rasmus Højlund, a very, very good player, a very talented young lad. I know he's not got off the ground yet in terms of Premier League goals, but he's been banging him in the Champions League. But he needs backup. He needs alternatives. He can't just keep running this kid into the ground. And I don't think you can play Marcus Rashford down the middle. We need a striker who can come in and do a job, whether it's the lad from Stuttgart or the lad from Brentford. In Ivan Toney, remains to be seen. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up there. Don't forget, we've got plenty of other videos on the channel if you want to go and check them out, including if you still want to put yourself through it, the post-match reaction from the other night, plus Paddock Live from last night. Later on today, me and Stephen Howson will be back for the Brew. I also forgot what podcast it was there. We've got a guest as well, Jamie Jackson from The Guardian. He's going to be joining us. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and give us a share as well. And also, one final plug, we are going to be in Dublin on the 28th of December. Me, Steve, Macca, Joe, and Wesley Brown, the hardest man in all the town. So make sure, if you can get over to Dublin for the 28th of December, you join us. There's a link in the description. I've been Jay Motti, outside a sunny but cold Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.